If you saw that car from this angle, you'd swear it was a Mazda CX-9. But when you look at it from this angle, you'd swear it was a CX-5. But it's only when you view this car from this angle you realise it is in fact the Mazda CX-8.
Chasing cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
For the 2023 version, Mazda has given the CX-8 an extensive update, including a really significant facelift. Bumpers are completely redesigned front and rear. It gets a completely new grille, and we've got these lovely, more elegant headlight designs which house adaptive LED technology. This version also comes in an all-new colour, rhodium white. Now, as it's the CX-8, it gets a very long wheelbase, and that means these huge second row doors which open to 90 degrees, massive void to get in and out for easy loading of kids and things. At the back end, the extensive redesign continues with these lovely LED taillights. They work as well as the redesigned headlights, I feel. Again, completely redesigned rear bumper, and the metalwork is the same. And there's a power operated tailgate which gives access to a 775 litre boot. That's pretty big for the segment. But there's more good news. Underneath this little hidey hole there's another 33 litres of space, and then go underneath that and there's a space saver spare.
In isolation, the CX-8 still stacks up as a well-rounded large SUV, but it becomes harder to understand its value and positioning when the broader forthcoming Mazda family is factored in. With the advent of Mazda's rear-drive biased modular SUV architecture, 3 compelling new models will join the lineup in the coming months. With the arrival of the CX-60, CX-80 and CX-90, Mazda will have a trio of all-new SUVs powered by muscular 6-cylinder engines and offering a raft of cutting-edge technology. Mazda says the CX-8 will continue to be offered as long as it's available, and alongside its younger siblings. But just how feasible or sustainable that is, only time will tell.
With the update there come revisions in the interior as well. These seats I'm sitting on have been revised. The bolsters are different and Mazda says they're a bit more supportive. Time will tell. They're also wrapped in this lovely Napa leather upholstery because this is one of the higher grades, the Asaki. And there's other good technological news as well. A 7-inch driver's instrument cluster for the higher grade versions, 10.3-inch central information display. I've got wireless device charging, and with that comes wireless connectivity to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. In here, USB-C, showing its modern side. Loads of good features up front here. It's almost as comfortable in the second row as well. They've got heaters back there. It's tilt and slide adjustment for the second row, and more of that lovely leather. But there's more good news the further back you go. The key defining feature with the CX-8 though comes back to that lovely long wheelbase. This car allows 3 rows of seating, so you've got the slender width of a CX-5 but the generosity and the space and flexibility of a CX-9. Now back here it's not the most generous third row I've ever sat in, but there's just enough. And there's a couple creature comforts too. Speakers for the rear passengers, USB-A, not USB-Cs like at the front, cup holders, and more lovely leather.
A series of updates have done a reasonable job of keeping the CX-8's cabin looking relatively fresh, but the years are starting to show. Materials and build quality is still above average, but the layout and design has one foot in the grave. Rivals including the Volvo XC90 and Skoda Kodiaq are no spring chickens either, but demonstrate how it's possible to age gracefully.
Designed originally for the Japanese market, the CX-8 has almost all of the space inside as the bigger CX-9, but has a skinnier width, which means it's more versatile and easy to negotiate those tiny Japanese lanes. Despite its primary market, the CX-8 has gained quite a popular following in Australia. And now it's time for a 2023 update. There are a choice of 2. First of all, you can have a 2.2 turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel with 140 kilowatts and 450 newton meters. Now, I drove that engine earlier today and I can say it is an absolute peach, a very nice match for a car like this. Heaps of torque, pretty good to rev out to the rev line, but where it really makes sense is its NVH levels. It's incredibly quiet. Still sounds a little bit like a diesel when you rev it, but in this class, there are very few engines that actually sit there and behave better. The second choice is this engine, a 2.5 litre normally aspirated petrol engine. This also has 140 kilowatts, but 252 newton meters. Now, you don't get an option to have the excellent Mazda turbocharged 2.5 litre petrol engine. I find that a bit of a shame because I feel with a car like this, it's nearly 1700 kilos, a little bit more torque to drag it around would make all the difference. Nonetheless, the naturally aspirated petrol is still pretty refined. It's definitely been tuned for the torquier end of the spectrum, and if you rev it up, it doesn't really do much. Far better to keep it in the lower revs and let it use its grunt. For the 2023 update, Mazda has revised the CX-8 suspension. It's got different dampers and springs all round. Now, I'll be completely honest, it's been a while since I drove the previous generation CX-8, and I can't really tell a huge amount of difference without a back-to-back comparison. But what I will say is, out on roads like this, the ride is absolutely lovely. And if it's made any difference to the road noise coming through to the cabin, that's also a bonus as well. It's serene in here. It's very smooth, and even on some of the really horrid surfaces and some water damage out here in the Victorian countryside, this car behaves incredibly well. Regardless of which engine you choose, it's bolted to a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, in today's day and age, where we're getting up to 10-speed automatic, 6 seems a little bit stingy. Nonetheless, it does still do quite well. Gear shifts are pretty snappy and smooth, and sometimes I do feel like there could be an extra ratio in there to make life a bit easier and make that petrol work a little bit better. But you do have pedal shifters if you want to force it into doing what you want, and generally the match is excellent. I've always liked Mazda ergonomics, and these new seats do feel like they're designed for perhaps a smaller person, but they're working fine for me. Read into that what you will. And the steering wheel is absolutely lovely as well. It's slender in the hand, it's really ergonomically well designed, and feels almost like I've got an MX-5 in my hands. I'm not really feeling any disadvantage to the narrower proportions of the CX-8. Obviously there's less overall volume, but there's still plenty of room up front. The second row has got heaps of space, and if you go for the top of the range LE, you get captain's chairs as well to make your kids feel like they're really special. Do they deserve it? Well, you decide. With the revised CX-8 range, there are now 6 spec levels and 2 engines.
6 variants form the new lineup, starting with the Sport from $42,060, while the Touring brings more equipment from $48,960. The previous Touring SP is replaced by a new Touring Active, and the SP badge moves up the ranking to a new GT SP from $58,560. The top of the pack is represented by the Asahi as before, priced from $61,810, or $71,410 for the Asahi LE, which features the pair of captain's chairs in the second row. Those prices are for the G25 front-wheel drive petrol, but all are on offer as the G35 diesel with all-wheel drive for an $8,000 premium, except the Asahi LE, which is only available as the G35 diesel. Compared with the previous CX-8 lineup, pricing has increased by between $1,500 and $2,500.
I remember thinking when the CX-8 came around the first time, it was probably going to be a bit too niche, and surely there'd be something for everyone with the CX-5 and the CX-9. But what do you know? I was wrong again. It actually did rather well. This car has sold more than 1,500 year to date already in 2023. And with the update, it's just gone on getting better. There's more choice in the range, the engines still perform really well, its proportions on the outside are perhaps not the prettiest in the range, but will do for now. With the 2023 version, I feel like this car has gone on getting better and better. It'll still be a niche within the niche, but for a very select audience, the CX-8 really does deserve its place in the Mazda family.